Could one accusation ignite a USA scandal? In a heated D.C. clash, Karoline Leavitt unveiled Kamala Harris's hidden corruption, stunning the nation. Her evidence threatened to unravel trust in power. Would justice prevail? The truth hung by a thread ready to shake America's core. The D.C. studio buzzed with tension, its air thick with the scent of polished wood and ambition. Karoline Leavitt, a young firebrand, stood poised at a podium, clutching evidence that could topple a titan. Across from her, Kamala Harris, a political giant, exuded confidence, unaware of the storm brewing. Leavitt's folder held proof of a USA scandal, corruption that bled communities dry, from Chicago's urban core to Appalachia's forgotten hills. Families in Detroit lost homes to misspent funds, while rural farmers in Ohio mourned stolen futures. Faith-driven voters, clinging to hope, felt betrayed by leaders who preached justice but hid greed. Leavitt's heart pounded. Exposing Harris meant risking her career, her safety, maybe more. The stakes were clear: reveal the truth, or let lies fester. The nation watched, breathless, as cameras zoomed in, capturing every bead of sweat. D.C.'s marble halls, gleaming with power, seemed to pulse with secrets. Leavitt's resolve hardened. She'd fight for the silenced, for justice. But could one woman's truth dismantle a web of deceit? The confrontation loomed, a spark ready to ignite. The D.C. studio's lights burned hot, casting shadows on Kamala Harris's polished smile. She leaned forward, voice dripping with dismissal. "Your claims are baseless, Karoline. No corruption here." The audience gasped, sensing the USA scandal's weight. Leavitt's eyes blazed, her folder trembling in her grip. "This evidence says otherwise," she shot back, voice steady. Harris scoffed. "You're chasing conspiracies." The crowd stirred, urban activists and rural skeptics alike feeling the sting of denial. Leavitt's mind raced. Her proof of misallocated funds had gutted communities, leaving Chicago's poor homeless and Appalachia's farmers broke. The studio's marble backdrop gleamed coldly, mirroring Harris's defiance. "You can't hide the truth forever," Leavitt warned, her words a spark in the powder keg. Harris's smirk faltered, a crack in her armor. The tension coiled tighter, cameras catching every flinch. Could Leavitt's evidence break through? Or would Harris's power crush the truth? The D.C. studio crackled with tension as Karoline Leavitt opened her folder. "This memo proves diverted funds starved Chicago's schools," she declared, holding up a damning document. The crowd murmured, urban parents feeling the sting of betrayal. Kamala Harris's eyes narrowed. "That's fabricated," she snapped, voice sharp. Leavitt pressed on. "It's signed by your aide." Silence fell for 10 seconds, the studio's air heavy with shock. Harris shifted, her composure fraying. "You're misleading America," she countered, but her tone wavered. The true crime of corruption pulsed through the room, its weight, crushing Detroit's hopes and Appalachia's trust. Leavitt's evidence, a leaked memo detailing millions misspent, lit a spark online, with posts spreading like wildfire. Rural conservatives in Ohio shared clips, their anger at elite deceit raw. Faith-based viewers in Atlanta prayed for truth to prevail. The studio's lights glared, exposing every flinch. Leavitt stood firm, her resolve a beacon for the silenced. But Harris wasn't done. Her next move loomed. Could Leavitt's proof withstand the pushback? The D.C. studio vibrated with unrest, its walls echoing the nation's pulse. Karoline Leavitt, undeterred, produced a witness, a Chicago schoolteacher, whose voice cracked with pain. "Harris's team siphoned our funds," she testified, her words slicing through the air. Urban families, robbed of their children's future, felt the betrayal cut deep. Kamala Harris gripped her podium, face taut. "This is hearsay," she deflected, but doubt shadowed her eyes. Leavitt's gaze didn't waver. "We have receipts," she said coolly, foreshadowing a devastating blow. The viral exposé gained traction, with D.C.'s streets buzzing as protesters, black activists, rural workers, and faith-driven believers demanded justice. Appalachia's miners, long ignored, saw their struggles mirrored in the scandal. The studio's air grew thick, like a storm about to break. Leavitt's evidence was mounting, each piece a hammer against Harris's facade. Yet danger loomed. Whispers of retaliation swirled. Would Leavitt's truth survive the elite's wrath? The nation leaned in, hearts racing, as the real proof drew closer. The DC studio's tension was a live wire, its lights searing into Kamala Harris's faltering poise. Karoline Leavitt unveiled a second document, bank records tying Harris's campaign to misspent millions. "This proves your betrayal," Leavitt said, voice unwavering. Harris stammered, "Those are doctored." Silence gripped the room for 10 seconds, the crowd frozen, urban mothers and rural laborers united in shock. The sting of injustice burned deep, as Chicago's schools and Appalachia's farms lay gutted. Faith-based viewers in Dallas clung to hope for redemption. Leavitt's stand trended online, clips racking up millions of views, igniting protests from Detroit to D.C. Harris's aides scrambled, their whispers frantic. The air pulsed with the weight of truth, the studio's marble walls seeming to crack. Would you risk everything for justice? Leavitt's evidence was a beacon, but Harris's power loomed large. Could one woman's fight topple a giant? The D.C. studio froze, its air as heavy as a Chicago winter. Karoline Leavitt raised a final document, a signed directive linking Kamala Harris to a corruption scandal that siphoned millions from public funds. "You betrayed this nation," Leavitt thundered, her voice ablade. Harris's face drained of color. "That's a lie," she gasped, but her words crumbled. Silence fell for 15 seconds. The crowd's breath held, urban teachers and rural farmers united in disbelief. The true crime of greed had gutted communities. Chicago's schools shuttered, Appalachia's clinics closed, Detroit's families homeless. Faith-based viewers in Houston felt their trust in leaders shatter. Leavitt's evidence was ironclad, detailing Harris's orders to divert funds for personal gain. A second silence, 20 seconds long, followed as cameras zoomed. On the document's damning text, the studio's marble walls seemed to tremble, mirroring America's shaken core. Online, the exposé erupted, with posts hitting 10 million views in hours. Protesters flooded D.C., their chants a roar of rage and hope. Black activists, rural conservatives, and churchgoers stood shoulder to shoulder, their pain raw. Leavitt's stand was a beacon, her courage a call to the silenced. Harris's aides fled the studio, their whispers drowned by the crowd's fury. Yet, a shadow lingered. Would justice triumph? Or would power shield Harris once more? Washington, D.C.'s streets roared with protests, a tidal wave of fury and hope. Karoline Leavitt's viral exposé of Kamala Harris's corruption scandal sparked millions to act, from Chicago's urban core to Appalachia's quiet valleys. Social media lit up. Posts surged past 15 million views, with rural Ohioans sharing clips of Leavitt's stand. Urban black activists in Detroit chanted for justice, their voices raw with betrayal. Faith-based communities in Atlanta prayed, their trust in power shattered. The studio's echo faded, but America's pulse thundered. News outlets replayed Leavitt's document reveal, its words searing the nation's conscience. Protesters waved signs outside Harris's office, demanding accountability. The air crackled with a true crime reckoning, as families mourned stolen futures. Would you march for truth? Social media amplified the outcry, with trending posts uniting coast to coast. Harris's silence spoke volumes, her allies scrambling. Would justice rise from the chaos? Washington, D.C.'s skyline glowed with dawn's promise, a symbol of renewal after Karoline Leavitt's stand. Her exposé of Kamala Harris's corruption scandal spurred sweeping reforms. New laws ensured public funds reached Chicago's schools and Appalachia's clinics. Urban families in Detroit reclaimed their homes, their hope restored. Rural farmers in Ohio, long neglected, saw aid flow, their faith in justice reborn. Leavitt's legacy as a whistleblower shone bright, inspiring a nation to demand accountability. Churches in Atlanta held vigils, their prayers answered through action. The true crime of greed no longer held sway. Transparency laws now guarded America's trust. D.C.'s marble halls, once cloaked in secrets, stood open, bathed in light. Leavitt, though scarred by threats, emerged as a hero for the silenced. What's your fight for justice? The nation's wounds began to heal, from urban streets to rural plains, united in purpose. Could this victory spark lasting change? Washington, D.C.'s scars whispered of a nation tested by betrayal. Karoline Leavitt's fight against Kamala Harris's corruption exposed a true crime that cut deep. From Chicago's neglected streets to Appalachia's quiet hollows, urban families, stripped of hope, found their voice again. Rural communities, long forgotten, stood taller, their distrust in elites validated. Faith-based hearts in Atlanta, wounded by greed, rediscovered moral clarity. Leavitt's stand showed who America values: the silenced, the overlooked. Her courage, a spark in D.C.'s cold marble halls, lit a fire for justice. Yet the shadows of power linger, ready to strike back. Who fights for you when leaders fail? The nation's wounds, though healing, remind us, truth demands sacrifice. From Detroit's resilient activists to Ohio's steadfast farmers, we're bound by a shared craving for fairness. What's your stand against betrayal? Leavitt's legacy calls us to rise, to guard America's soul against the next scandal. America's fight against corruption doesn't end here. Join us. Felt the sting of a USA scandal like Leavitt's exposé? Share your story in the comments, whether from Chicago's streets or Appalachia's hills. Your voice fuels justice. Subscribe now to stand with us, uncovering greed one truth at a time. Share this video to spark change. Urban activists and rural faithful need to hear it. Ever faced betrayal by leaders? Tell us below. Let's unite for a nation craving truth.